You've heard that Airtable is the Swiss Army knife for business. But if you're trying to build a skyscraper, a Swiss Army knife is the wrong tool. Many business owners hit a wall with Airtable 6 months in, and they try to figure out why. So in this video, I'm going to be explaining to you what the key limitations of Airtable are. Now, this information is coming from years of experience and also the facts that we do dozens of inquiry calls every day, and we're looking for these very things on these calls to help determine if Airtable is even the right fit for our prospective clients. So if you're ready to see if Airtable could be a fit for your next project, or if there are limitations to the tool that just means you should exclude it from consideration, stick around and let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Gareth and this is Gap Consulting, and it's our mission here to help you unlock the full potential of no-code tools. And Airtable has been and will likely continue to be the forefront of the no-code tools that we talk about here. Now, before I get into the heart of this video, I first want to invite you to join us for the very inquiry or strategy session that I mentioned at the top of the video. Our team offers a free strategy consultation if you're looking to implement Airtable and to figure out if it's the right fit for you. Go ahead and sign up, book some time on one of the calendars of our team members, and we will talk to you about your next steps with Airtable and whether or not it's a good fit. Go ahead and sign up from our website. I will include links wherever you found this video. But without further ado, let's hop on into the heart of things. The first key element that we need to talk about is the record limitation of Airtable. If you're used to the idea of storing an unlimited amount of information in a database, stop right here and do a serious reality check, because Airtable has hard limitations based on the different plans that they offer that you need to be aware of when you're implementing your next project. I'm going to dive into their pricing page and just give it to you straight from the horse's mouth. For the most part, business owners are on the team business, or in the case of larger companies, enterprise scale. So what are you getting for that? The team plan comes with 50,000 records per base. And that might sound like a lot, but if you're used to implementing every piece of information that you gather into a spreadsheet, this is going to get very limiting very quickly. 50,000 records can be consumed in a moment if you're not very conscious about the records that you're creating. Now, you get a lot more leeway, of course, on the business plan. That 50,000 increases to 125,000 records per base. So it more than doubles on that business tier. And this is a big improvement because even as recently as 3-4 years ago, Airtable was capped even on the biggest tier at 50,000 records. So the fact that it's now opened up to 125K, that's a big improvement. But it is still a limitation to be very aware of because, as I already mentioned, when you're dealing with a massive data set, 125,000 records can be eclipsed relatively quickly. Now, the record count or limits go up to 500,000, 500,000 records when you're on that enterprise scale plan. Now, I've seen a number of enterprise scale plans with the clients that we've worked with over the past many years, and they come in different shapes and sizes, but there are some commonalities. Obviously, the amount you're paying per user is going to be significantly higher than the business tier, which is at $54 per month if billed monthly. I've also seen that many of them tend to be on annual plans or they're invoiced differently. And there are usually some seat requirements, a certain minimum number of licensed seats that are being sold with that package. Now, I will leave the pricing and everything up to Airtable sales reps. So if you're interested in the enterprise scale, make sure to connect with Airtable for that information. I only mean to convey that it is significantly higher than the business tier, which should come as no surprise, and that there are some minimum thresholds to meet if you're considering that option. Now, as a little bit of a bonus here, on that enterprise scale plan, you do have the HyperDB option. So if you do a search through the pricing page, you're going to find this HyperDB hover over it, and you can find that you can operationalize datasets up to 100 million records with 5 HyperDB tables that are included in the enterprise scale plans. So don't exactly think of this as the ability to bring in 100 million records directly into Airtable. Note the way that they phrase this sentence. You're operationalizing those datasets. So you have the ability to access that data that lives in another database solution that you're basically pulling into Airtable when needed. So you don't have all 100 million records present at one moment in time. You're able to access elements of those 100 million records when you need them in Airtable. So it's not exactly the same as you might expect. It's not a limitation that moves from 500K to 100M, although that would be nice. Airtable isn't quite there yet, but do note that if you have just the need for access to be able to operationalize this data, as Airtable phrases, you do have that HyperDB option in the back pocket, but that is only available at this point for the enterprise scale plans. Now, you might notice that we've been talking about limitations per database, and if you're new to Airtable in general, you might wonder what the heck a base or a database really is. You can think of a base as a filing cabinet of information. Now, something to note is that you can have an unlimited number of bases within your Airtable workspaces. So if we're still talking about the record limitation being a deal breaker for you, you might want to consider the fact that you can build multiple database solutions within the same workspace, and each of those solutions has its own 50,000 or 125,000 or 500,000 limitation for records. So that limitation is specific and unique to each database you build. But as you might expect, it's not really easy to build a ton of databases. And the reason is each database needs its own automations and its own interfaces. So if you're just building something for back-end analysis, Airtable databases might not be the best use case. It still makes the most sense to do your analysis or your breakdown of information in proper BI tools. If you're using spreadsheets, fine, or if you have something like Looker, Tableau, some kind of proper BI tool that actually allows you to do true analysis, then you're probably going to want to stay in those tools. Building a base in Airtable to do analysis usually isn't the right use of your resources. The big trap here is that people new to Airtable come at it with a spreadsheet thinking mentality. So save yourself the hassle of making that mistake and pivot early on, realizing that Airtable is not just a spreadsheet. It's not a BI only tool. Airtable is a workflow management. It is a database that includes automation, that has user permissions and all kinds of workflow opportunities within the product. So when you're building with Airtable, it's not just about copying and pasting a CSV. In most cases, you're building a solution that will scale with your company as you add users over time. Now that comes as a perfect segue to our second key limitation to Airtable, and it's what I think of as the interface wall. So in order to understand this limitation, let me quickly explain to you the layers of Airtable. Here's an example database that I shared in a previous video for YouTube. And what you'll see here, because I'm a builder, I'm in it at the back end. That is the data layer. So generally speaking, when you launch an Airtable application out to a team, you'll have one or two people at the data layer who can actually build the database itself. They'll create the tables, create the fields, link all of the different objects together, give the permissions, etc. These people, the builders, will also be responsible for building the automation workflow and putting together the interfaces. The automations and interfaces, these are the other two layers of Airtable beyond just the data layer. Automations are where you'll build the workflow, the automation processes that send information to Slack, Microsoft Teams, email, you name it. There are many native integrations in Airtable, and then there are also the abilities for doing webhooks and integrating Airtable with other tools like Zapier or Make.com for more robust automation. So that all lives at the automation side of things, the second layer. The third layer, interfaces, this is where your team, the majority of people using the application, will actually log in. This is what most people see. And you can build exactly what you want them to see. If there is information in the database that you don't want to share, great, don't share it here. Only give them the ability to edit the fields that you want them to edit. All of that is wonderful. This functions flawlessly within Airtable, but the limitation is the paywall. Every user that you add to an Airtable interface is going to come at a price. Back now to our pricing page, you might remember that we were looking at $24 a month if billed monthly for the team plan and $54 for the business plan. But note that this is per seat. So this cost is going to be here for your team with every new team member that you add into Airtable. And this can cause your costs to inflate relatively quickly as you grow and scale your team. So this is something to be very aware of, and something that I've been a little critical about over the years as we've implemented Airtable, because I do find it difficult to stomach the fact that a builder, somebody who's in there with, admin type privileges, costs the same as somebody who needs to log in and just see a little bit of information and edit a few fields in an interface. It doesn't feel balanced to me. The fact that the way that these two people are using the tool is so vastly different. And yet when it comes to the bill, these two user seats are equivalent in terms of cost. I just struggle with this imbalance. So be aware of the fact that depending on the plan that you're on, every new user that you add to your team as you're sharing an interface is going to incur that cost. That is mostly true, but here's the fine print. If you're on a business tier, you can add a commenter to your interface without incurring an additional charge. Now, for whatever reason, if you're on the Teams plan and you add a commenter, that will incur the monthly charge. But for the business tier and above, only editors and builders, or creators as they're called, are going to incur the monthly charge per seat. Anyone who just has commenter privileges does not incur a charge, so there is a little bit of savings there, although for the most part, when you're adding people to your plan, you generally want them to have some edit access, so be aware that that will increase costs for you substantially as you grow your team. Now, as a quick bonus to this second point, there is the functionality of building some forms through third-party tools that will allow your users to take action from your interfaces and update information through form submissions. You can do this natively with Airtable forms by building automations that, when the form is submitted, captures information and updates records via automated processes. The other option is to build a cleaner solution using third-party tools that integrates directly with Airtable so that when your users submit form information, they can actually update existing data in Airtable. So through using this methodology, you can add read-only users to your Airtable interfaces, which do not incur charges, and have the added benefit of allowing them to edit information, small amounts of information, through form submissions. So if you're looking for a way to get around this second limitation that I've called out, the interface cost increase, check out our channel for other videos that showcase how to use other tools to update information in Airtable without adding paid users. Now let's talk about the third and final key limitation for Airtable, and it has to do with the way that different databases in Airtable talk to each other. So we mentioned earlier that you can have an unlimited number of databases in Airtable through your plans. The thing is, those databases don't talk to each other very nicely. The lag time between the sync is considerable in some cases, more so depending on the lower tiered plans. So if we swing back to the Airtable pricing page, here I've got it so that we're looking at team in the second column here, the business in the third column, and we're talking about synced tables with data talking between different bases. So first of all, how many synced tables do you get per base? Well, on the team plan, that's 10. On the business plan, that's 20. Verified data is a way that your organization can create verified data sets that can be shared through multiple apps. This is only available on the business tier. Multi-source syncing, that is syncing data from multiple tables, that's only available on the business plan. The most valuable of these, in my opinion, is the two-way sync, which allows you to sync data back and forth from two different places. This feature is only available on the business tier as well. If you're on the team plan or the free plan, you cannot actually have that bidirectional sync. So on the lower tiered plans, data can only be updated in the source, which will then be reflected in the synced table. Only on the business or above plans are you able to edit information at either layer and have it reflect back in the other data source. And then, of course, we also have the premium sync integrations for Jira, Salesforce, Tableau Online, etc. These are obviously available to those higher tiers. And then for the enterprise scale integrations like Adobe Experience Manager, Jira Data Center, Snowflake, and Workday, these are enterprise scale only. The key takeaway here is that the synced relationships between these databases gets better as you move up to the higher tiers in Airtable. But the thing that is not necessarily shared here is that the sync is not necessarily real time. Now, yes, the business and enterprise scale tiers are very quick, but they are not instantaneous. So if you're changing information at one place, it might not immediately be reflected in your synced data through the other database relationships. And that is especially true for the lower tiers, where it can take, in some cases, up to 5 minutes for information to flow from one to the other. And if you're running a small business flash sale, for example, 5 minutes is an eternity. So not having real-time information at your fingertips can be a big limitation. So before you undertake an Airtable project, be very aware of the fact that that information, especially through synced tables, can have a little bit of a lag and therefore might be something that you want to get ahead of before undertaking your next project. Other than that, Airtable is a very effective tool, and if these 3 limitations don't put you off, then I do hope that you would consider moving forward more with Airtable, because it is, quite frankly, an incredible tool. And although this video might have seemed like doom and gloom, in reality, we are strong advocates and massive supporters of Airtable and what it empowers small business, medium business, and enterprise scale customers to do in their workflows. That's it for this video. If you got some value from it and want to see more content about Airtable and no code, please give us a subscription, a thumbs up to this video, and of course, swing by our website if you have questions that I did not get to answer in this video. That's it for this one, but of course, most importantly, keep on building.